space boy.
On Earthling. I wasn't ready for this album. I mean, I'm still a great fan of Outsider, and bang, you hit with another one.
Yeah.
Why so quick?
I think when I reduced the band down, the outside band was really quite heavy-handed. It was a 9-piece in all, which is a lot of guys to take on the road. And I felt that there was real complexity in mixing that band. And so I reduced it down to just the 4-piece, which is Gaylan Dorsey, bass guitar, Mike Garson on keyboards, Reeves Gabrels on guitar, and Zachary Orford on drums.
Right.
And we then started touring again, and we started in January '96 in that particular format. And we went right through Europe, and we did Japan also, we did Russia, I think, Scandinavia, and dropped down to the Mediterranean, back to England. And I think that we got really excited about what we were like as a stage band. We felt that we were really aggressive and very committed to the kind of music that we were playing at that time. And I really wanted to go in the studio and make almost like a sonic photograph of what the band sounded like right now. So we got off the road, and within 3 days I booked us into a studio.
Here in New York?
Yeah, at Looking Glass, which is Philip Glass's studio, as it happens, in Soho. We worked at a fever pitch for about 9 days writing the material, Reeves and I, and recorded the whole thing in about 2.5 weeks. So it came out of a set of really spontaneous circumstances. I didn't expect to be making an album that year at all. And it was,
it was like a gift. As well.
Yeah, I mean, it was so fast that I didn't even think about who's going to produce it with me. So I thought, okay, I'll do it, you know. And it was just a great way to work, you know. And it took me back in a way too, because in the old days, I mean, I did about 2 a year, you know. In the 70s, right through the 70s, I wrote and recorded 2 albums a year.
I mean, there's some fantastic rhythms in this, and they're really clean cut, you know?
That's what happens. I think you automatically, you don't have a chance to overproduce when you give yourself kind of a real deadline like that. I said 3 weeks, but just do it. You know? Whatever happens, let's get it done 3 weeks. And I think you cut down to the bone like that. And so it is very much a stripped down, quite a Spartan kind of sound.
Loves anymore. Nobody loves anymore. Nobody loves anymore. It's the worst thing you can do.
With the last album, I mean, it's totally different to this album, right? In essence.
Yeah, it shares a familiar terrain in the rhythmic and percussive side of it. It's far more upfront and very much more in your face on Earthling. But Brian and I were already trying to focus in on new dance vocabulary in terms of rhythms and things. And there are about 6 or 7 tracks on Outside that pay homage to jungle or drum and bass, whatever you want to call it now. Post-industrial and new techno. And that's something that I've been really fascinated by since the beginning of the 90s. I did a lot of stuff with Black Tie, White Noise. We took, there were some dance pieces on that were vaguely, I guess you would call it trip-hop, like the Wedding Song and those pieces. But outside of the album, I took them, I was getting mixes done by like State 808 and Junior Vasquez.
Which were some great mixes.
Oh yeah, the Palace Athena mix was really excellent. So more and more, in a way, going back again to the way I was working in the 70s.
Territories. Starting to really take off now in Australia. A great track.
That's nice to know.
Great track.
Good on you. Can anyone dance in Australia, Ian?
Absolutely, they love dance in Australia.
That's the funniest thing. We started seeing a few raves a few months ago in America. I've seen that, you know, European ones I know about. But the music is great. I mean, they're really getting into the music, but the dancing is like really leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah. The reason we, you know, embrace and have embraced, certainly the dance side of things, even from, you know, from all different forms of it, is that Australia has always had that thing where we have the best of both worlds. I mean, we can get, well, if it's the best of both worlds, but I mean, certainly from the Euro influences, UK, and then from America, you know. With this album, I saw you perform at the VH1 Awards.
Yeah.
I'm dying to see the band perform this, you know.
Dynamite. They're such a great band. I can't tell you. I'll let you have a copy of the Madison Square Garden.
Oh, I've seen a bit of that.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's
excellent.
Yeah.
Well, talking about Madison Square Gardens, I got this 15-minute thing this morning.
Yeah.
And I was very amused to see you say that you don't know what you may be doing next, but you promise that you won't bore us. I mean, you have done anything in your life but bored people, you know?
You want to ask my friends that before you...
To see you over the years...
I don't think I have intentions. I mean, I think the majority of the time I like to revel in the freedom that I have as an artist, and that's the most important thing, is that I am allowed to do this. And that, for me, is intention enough. And so it rather gives me a really wide berth. Also, I've been very consistent about not adopting any one style, which for me is part and parcel of how culture works in the late 20th century. The idea of one craft or one style is not really part of an art's vocabulary. And I get, it's kind of Duchampian, you know, the hybridization and fragmentation of things, you know. And that's always appealed to me since I was a kid, because those are my areas, William Burroughs and Marcel Duchamp and all that. So I've applied that sort of outlook to what I do, is that I don't have any parameters. I'll just sort of...
Sonic Youth have to say about David Bowie?
Sounds like an Andy thing there, this 15 minutes thing. Go on.
I'm going to bring that up.
Go on.
All right. Now, with Sonic Youth, the Smashing Pumpkins, the Foo Fighters, were you aware, or have you been aware of how much influence you really have had?
Well, I've got to be fair here. I mean, it was reciprocal. Some of the bands were on there because I was influenced by them. Sonic Youth, for instance, right through the 80s, I thought they with the Pixies, Frank Black, were for me the fundamental bands of the 80s. There would not have been a Seattle sound, and I don't think you would have had Soundgarden without either Pixies or Sonic Youth. They were terribly...
I did an interview with the boys from Soundgarden. They actually did say that there was an influence. Yes,
that's great.
They did.
I'm so pleased they did. And Nirvana, quite obviously, was incredibly influenced by the Pixies, and they kind of got left behind in a way. And it was like my way of kind of getting them publicly acknowledged in some kind of tenuous fashion. And there are other people, obviously, like Lou, that I've worked with, and for me, it was almost a reminiscent point. And it was just such fun working with him. He's such a great old guy. I mean, he really is. And possibly people like Robert Smith I've had a bit of an influence on, and whatever. So it went backwards and forwards between, you know, this is the mix of sounds that I feel comfortable with.
Well, I always feel guilty because, like, when I go home, because I had the great pleasure of seeing you perform at Wembley, and performing a lot of that album at the time. I panic and think of that. Do you discard that for this album? How do you?
I would say that at the moment, how we're working, I'm doing almost 80% of Earth, Wind & Stage, and a good 50% of outside, and the rest of the program is made up of some quite unusual choices. On the next tour, I've got some quite interesting things like Stay from Station to Station. I'm bringing back, I'm working, I never thought I'd do this, but hey, if anybody can go back on his word, I'm the man for the job. But I'm doing a version of Fame And how this came about is that Dr. Dre picked on it, and he wanted to do his own version of Fame, which he's done, which is fantastic.
I haven't heard that.
Oh, it's just wonderful. And so I've asked him for his multi-tracks, and then we're going to do his version of Fame, but me singing my old vocal.
Do you ever listen to it? I mean, people like myself, I mean, a lot of your fans have gone through the years, have great favourites, great albums, you know?
Yeah.
How does David Bowie feel about?
I think it's harder for me to listen.
Rather than being reminiscent or nostalgic.
It's harder for me to listen to a more straightforward, linear kind of melody. Something that's really like something to listen to, say, the song Ziggy Stardust.
Right.
It's such a straightforward concept with a typical verse-chorus kind of structure that as a piece of work, it's so locked into a time period for me. I'm not a very nostalgic or reminiscent-oriented person. I very much live for the moment of what I'm doing right now. But pieces of music, say the stuff that I did on Low, or some of the stuff from Lodger, pieces that have maybe more of a less linear form, that are kind of more languid and kind of they're a little wider in their birth, and they're not quite so obvious in their melody lines. Those become less locked in time for me. Those things I find quite easy. In fact, I enjoy listening to those things a lot. But the kind of the very solid, short songs, I really have a problem with.
And the spiders from Mars, well, he played it left hand, but he made it too far. He became a special man, that beat was Ziggy's band. Ziggy really sang, screwed up eyes and screwed out hairdo, like some cat from Japan. He could kill 'em by smiling, he could leave 'em to hang. Came on so loaded, man, well, hung a Snow White man. So where were the spiders while the fire tried to break our bones? Just to feel like the guide us. So we bitched about his pants and shirt, crushed his sweet hands. Oh yeah. Ziggy played for time, jiving on a stud. We were voodoo, kids was just crabs. And he was an ass with God-given ass. He played it all too far, but boy could he play guitar. Making love with his big ego. Ziggy is sucked up into his mind, like some leper messiah. And the kids that killed the man, I had to break up the band. Oh yeah.
Do their own thing and then...
Yeah, what we do, we supplement it with our own as well. But if you're going to work with an outside mixer, you've got to allow him his integrity, and you can't start dictating to somebody like Moby, who knows exactly what he's doing. And Moby was great because he phoned and asked if he could do that particular track.
Right.
So that was really made for him. I said, oh, I'd love you to do, you know, that would be tremendous. So and he gave us back 5 mixes. I mean, he just went to town on it. And Danny Saber, who's worked with me before,
Oh, yeah.
he's got a very different approach. But you can't mess with those guys. They have to do what they do. Otherwise, most of them, they wouldn't even accept the job, you know.
A great collaborator with you, great friend, I guess. Well, I don't guess, I know. Is Brian Eno.
Yeah.
Again, influence on this album.
Well, it's hard to say. I guess the working methods, more than anything. With Brian, it's generally working methods. Brian, I think, would be the first to admit that he's not a musician.
Sure.
And Brian is more about process and how things are put together and what the context of things are. He's very good, I've always thought, that he can take an area of your work and know exactly where the frame for that piece of work should be. And he'll put a frame around it and make sense of maybe what you think is a bit of a muddle. And I guess I still employ a lot of the processes that I learned while working with him. And it's a way of working spontaneously and allowing accidents to take place and then incorporating them into the music. That nature of sort of, that the music becomes rather in control.
Now I'm wiser than dreams. Let me fly, 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 while I'm touching tomorrow.
On again, the live performance, I was stunned with the theatrics that I saw at Wembley. I mean, there were some wonderful effects, not over the top at all. It was all fit into place, the storyline and that.
Very nice, very tastefully done.
But the videos, I mean, the videos for Little Wonder and
Yeah.
for Dead Man Walking,
Yeah.
I mean, how much influence do you have on that? I mean,
Tremendous amount.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess because I've always seen, for me, music has always been part of a visual vocabulary as well, and it's been as important for me, the pictorial representation of whatever I've written has been, the two have always gone alongside each other. So I think, especially with music that I'm excited about, I think I take as much interest and I help develop storyboards and I bring in influences. Maybe I'm working, sometimes I work with quite young directors these days. I mean, anybody under 49 to me is young.
yeah.
And often their reference systems are maybe not as wide as mine, but that's merely because I've been around longer and I've seen a lot more.
Sure.
So I'll often bring in sort of some interesting visual references of people maybe they've not heard of and whatever, and get them excited about things that, you know, and then they come back at me with their feedback, having seen.
The desire to take on a major part of the work of directing a film, I mean...
I've just been offered one,
Yeah.
funnily enough, that you didn't know this at all,
No, I
and I don't know why you asked the question, but
well, only because you even in the way you were explaining it then, you
Yeah.
love that media, you know. And
I
you
do.
understand.
Yes, it's a parallel universe to me. It's a way of creating the nearest thing that you can get to your own alternative vision. Something that maybe goes on in your head. And I was just offered something last week, a script, and asked if I'd be interested in directing. I don't think I will because it's not my subject matter.
Sure.
But it's the first time that it ever happened to me that somebody was willing to put the bucks where their mouth is and say, look, we've got the money, do you want to direct this? And it kind of made me think that before I get much older, that if I do want to do something in the world of film as a director, that I should probably get off my arse and do something about it and write something that, you know, these 3 or 4 great ideas that one has in one's life. The one great novel, the one great movie.
Right, the acting side. Very quickly, I mean, like playing Andy
No
Warhol.
interest at all. Oh, that was fun.
Yeah?
I don't like acting.
Did you know him?
Yeah, I knew him.
Well?
He would attend the opening of an envelope. I mean, you couldn't miss him in New York. I mean, wherever you went, Andy was there too, you know.
Yeah.
And you just bumped into him all the time. So I don't know who knew Andy.
That's Andy Warhol. You want to buy some ignorant art? $10 a piece.
Gee, ignorant art, Bruno. Oh, that sounds good. That's new. Gee, it didn't work very much on these. I can give you like 5.
You don't even work on yourself.
My personal feeling that what I wanted to get over maybe in the movie with Julian was that I felt that he was just actually a very awkward, very shy, and actually quite nice guy, and a little bit out of his own depth with the fame that he'd achieved. I often got the feeling that he never really quite understood why he was as big as he was. It's like he was overwhelmed by the whole thing, you know.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to give that some... There was a real human quality and a vulnerability to him. Most people portray him as being kind of real hard, you know, and like a Machiavellian and all that. And I don't think he was at all.
You've got to stop giving them away, you know? Oh, come to Garson want me to, like, model from them? Maybe you could do that with me.
Yeah, I could do that. You could teach me.
Well, I couldn't teach you anything. You're a natural. Kidding me? Maybe you could join my modeling agency.
They asked me to do in my Todd room at the Palladium. Should I do that?
I've got Milo doing that.
They asked him before they asked me?
Gee,
I'm not doing that. I gotta get out of New York.
I think once you learn to open yourself up more, you can relate in a very real way to circumstances and friends and people. I think it's a hard thing to learn to do if you've been bombarded with a celebrity status type thing for the majority of your life, because you tend to get very fearful, which is a mistake, and you tend to feel that other people want too much of you, which is not necessarily true. But when you often cocoon yourself with drugs or other addictions or whatever. And I think when you can break through those things and start to find, in essence, what it is that you enjoy in life and open up more to other people.
I'm down sometime to Southeast Asia and to Australia.
Yeah.
The next project, if there is a next project, what would it be? Surely this album, you must be so happy with it.
I've got so much on. You're not going to believe it. I'm doing so many things, and I tend to be doing them all at once. I've got I've shown a lot as a painter and sculptor and all that over the last 3 years now. And I've got probably one of my major exhibitions that I've ever done coming up in Milan in Italy in October this year at the Marconi Gallery, which is like a very heavyweight gallery. And I'm absolutely knocked out that they've taken me on as an artist, and I've got to... That's really kind of on my mind. I've got to make sure that my stuff is what I really want it to be. So I've got that on my mind while I'm touring.
When you're the painter, or when you're the musician, or when you're the songwriter, do you have to switch off one part of the David Bowie mind? I mean, to get
no,
the focus?
painting was a lot harder for me. I mean, it was much easier for me to be a painter and a sculptor when I didn't feel I was being scrutinised as such.
Right.
I went through a period when I first started showing when I felt that I was in a state of judgment. You know, and I realised that that's the last thing I ever applied to myself as a musician. So why was I doing it? No, of course I haven't got the greatest technique in the world, and possibly maybe I'm too figurative, according to some, you know, as I work in a very figurative fashion. But then I had to take all those feelings of being judged away, as I would. I'm very confident as a musician and a writer. I don't know, I know, rather, I don't need anybody's opinion. I know exactly how good I am, or bad. But as a painter, you still feel this, you know, senses of insecurity, because it's not been my lifelong public showing of these things. But I'm gradually learning to find my own way now, and not depending or looking to other people for their opinions about my work, which has helped it immensely. It's freed it a lot.
Much recently. Yeah. It doesn't mean that you're going to stop touring for a while and say, like Australia and places like that, are going to miss out. You want to go?
Oh, please don't let me miss out again. I really want to. I mean, for 7 years I've been telling Iman that I'll take her to Australia. So it's rather cheap of me to kind of keep waiting for the tour to be the excuse. I mean, what was the matter? Can't you afford to take her on a holiday? Yes, I can. But I think it's because it's such a long way that you kind of hope that there will be a tour, and then we can stay at the end of the tour, and which is what I've frequently done. Every time I come over, as you know, at the end of a touring situation, I stay on, because it's such a long time to get there, and then take advantage of the next few weeks and kind of, you know, get a buggy and run up and down, usually the East Coast.
Right.
But I really want to do that for both myself and Iman, and to get the band out there and have them seen. I think it's so important the band is seen, because it's such a muscular outfit. It's a wonderful unit, and it's a very exciting band.
All right, now, with the work...
I've had, in fact, I'll blow somebody else's trumpets, but there have been so many people that have said that this is probably the best band that I've worked with since the Spiders. I mean, it's really a real critically acclaimed band. They are tremendous.
20th century dollars.
This is your shadow on my wall.
I smiled on this 15 minutes of what I saw today, and you were saying of how you always, way back, felt that you would make money. It was just a matter of how you would make it, you know?
Yeah.
I've got to admit something. I played a tape before I came over here of an interview I did with you back in '68, just on a tape recorder.
God.
Yep.
68?
68. And in London.
Oh, my God.
And you had... Then, I mean, the most amazing goals you were talking about, you know. Have you achieved most of them?
You'd have to tell me what they were. Is it? I mean, that would be...
It was about your music,
yeah.
it was about expression,
yeah.
It was about the visual thing
yeah.
of not just David Bowie.
Okay, I think probably at a sort of a manifest level, all those things that I wanted at that time, or thought I wanted at that time, I wanted to be important. I wanted to be considered as an important artist. I wanted to really change music. I wanted all those kind of things that,
you did.
You know, because one looked up to people like Picasso and Lennon and, you know, the people that actually moved and changed things. And I knew that there was a way of working artifice into rock music that hadn't been used before, that the idea that you could work without integrity in terms of character, that you can change yourself all the time, change your music. And I don't think anybody had approached rock like that before. So I knew that that was a way of really broadening it into another area. Once I'd achieved that to a certain extent, I really realised that it was me that I had to do a lot more thinking about. I think as you get older, I think that just happens. And you suddenly, my ambition is to enjoy every day that I'm living. That's really what it ends up becoming, you know. So ambition now is very short term. It's like until, well, if I get through to midnight, well, if I can get back and see my wife within the hour.
You're a lucky man.
Oh, man, am I.
And
am I ever.
Again, very lucky. Not lucky with this. It's a great album.
Thank you very much, Ian. Thank you. Das war ein Midfinst-Festival.
I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. I'm afraid of Americans.
It's really,
Es war
really
wirklich
good.
schön hier. Lügner!
great.
Es war toll. War's nicht?
But your songs
Deine Songs kamen halt nicht so gut an. Kann halt nicht singen.
Johnny's in America. Johnny looks up at the stars. Johnny bends his head. Johnny wants pussy and cars. Johnny's in America. Johnny's in America. I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. Yeah, I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can't. Yeah, I'm afraid of Americans.
Afraid to sign.
There you are. And now for you to sing for me too.